consideration. And then my final question is, has the trustees had any additional comments or considerations about locating the Ann Seabury Memorial on this property,
I mean, the fountain.
the fountain?
We have heard nothing about that. I've tried to, I actually made a call to Ms. McGrath. I know she got it because I got an answering phone message back saying she'd gotten it. Been trying to get in touch with her, have not heard from her. It would work. I mean,
There's a couple
is
of
it on that
places where I
drawing?
thought it might work.
Yes.
One
It
is
is
at the
on-
front, looking at it from
that would be
the
possible.
Route 102, and the other one would be in front of the parking lots, because you clearly can't put it in front of the building, on the entrance.
But
There's not
down
enough
look
room.
towards 102, one of the drawings, I don't remember whether it was this one or not, actually does show the no, it's not that one.
Yeah, it's not
My
that
wife
Put it in
looked
that
at the
little
drawing,
notch.
she
You could
thought, was
put a
the- she said
reading
was the
garden.
tree, was that the wreath? And I said, no, it's a landscape material.
Yes.
The
No,
reason I
you could
mention
certainly
it
do
is, I'm convinced more today than I even was when we had this original discussion on the board about 2 months ago, that it's inappropriate to put that fountain on Library Park. It just wouldn't be conducive to a couple things. Number one, nobody's going to see it. I dare say that you could ask 100 people in town where the Lenny Smith Memorial Bench is, and you might find possibly one, and only if that person was on the planning board. So, I mean, the point is that if you're going to have it there, it needs to be something that people can recognize Ann's contributions to the town. And I still think that the library would be the most appropriate place if Ms. McGrath is so inclined. So those are my questions and comments, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Selectman McLean.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, I also think that it's a beautiful building and it's a nice area. A library is, you know, it's the spirit of the town. It shows our character, et cetera. So if the board approves it and we say, yes, it's reasonable, even with the money, and the people vote for it, then hip, hip, hooray. But I mean, it would be great. My question, though, about the bond, now, if you go to the voters for a $4 million bond, does that mean that the buildings, the Ferry Street buildings, you'll give to the town and we keep that money when it's sold? Or that's not in addition, the buildings are not in addition to that $4 million bond, is that correct?
That's always been our intent, yes.
Okay.
I mean, once, we don't have any use for the buildings, and basically, they were bought those properties were bought for a library.
Mm-hmm.
If the money for the library comes from somewhere else, then we don't need it. We should give it back to the voters, basically, or,
Yeah.
you know, however we want to work that out.
And is it a wash between going for a $3.5 million bond and selling those properties and keeping that for yourself? Or, I mean, as far as the bottom line on the taxpayers go, does it matter? Or is it better to go for a smaller bond and keep the cash from selling the buildings?
Well, the answer is that you could only go for that if you had the additional monies in hand at the time the warrant article was passed.
Okay.
And unless we were to put the property up for sale now, it's unlikely that it would be sold in time for a warrant, which has to be put on the warrant by the
Okay.
first of
So we should have it in our
January.
mind that it's going to be, you'll be requesting $4 million and we'll have,
No more than that.
okay.
Um,
Not
I'm not
no
sure- I'm
more
not-
than that, but no more than that.
No more than that. No, it might not be that much.
Okay. And,
Um,
okay. And if I might continue, oh, actually, I forgot. Can you come back to me when I remember?
That's only supposed to be for
Selectman
folks like
Nader.
me.
Only if we're still on this discussion.
I think this is one of the better plans that I've seen. I think it looks very nice from 102, and as long as the price tag is under 4 million, I think we should be all set. I don't want to see, 4,500,000 and the buildings.
I will guarantee, I will not vote for that price, because I don't think, we need to get not only your approval on the budget committee, but we need to get 60% of the voters for a bond. So that, we're aware of that. We don't want to, I would say, press our luck, if I can put it that way.
Selectman Jasper.
I was just going to say, in regard to the bond and the buildings, I think ultimately, there are a couple things, and one has been suggested, putting the money in trusts to pay operating costs of the old library, which may not be a bad idea. The other thing that could be done is, even though you might have to go borrow 3.7 million or whatever it is, you could then reduce the bond. You could structure the bond in such a way, I would imagine, that you could have an early payoff on some of the principal, so that you could pay that down and end up with a lower annual cost. Because until you sell the buildings, you're not going to be able to guarantee how much you're going to get. As we're seeing right now, property prices are falling. That may well, with the construction starts also falling, that may well help us in
Cost.
in this cost. A lot of that's home building, but there's going to be residual effects, no doubt, into the commercial ends as well, which will should help us and keep that inflation factor down.
Selectman McLean.
Thank you so much. I did remember now, I wrote it down. So does our approval this evening, or before October 15th, or even before town meeting, we don't have to have, or I'm asking, do we have to have all the details about the old building and what it's going to be used for? That we don't need all those, I mean, we don't need all those details to go to the voters and say, this is the plan, and let's just get that, because it seems to me that if we take up all this time and figure out this whole plan and then it doesn't pass it, it wouldn't, it just would be a waste, that we should maybe just focus on getting it passed. So that's sort of a question.
It was the strangest question.
All the all the details of the old library, do those need to be in
Two
cast
different
in
issues in
stone?
my mind. You're really asking for a bond to build a new library. I think it would be good to know some ideas of what possibilities you would have for the old library, but I don't think that would be anything that voters would hang their hat one way or the other on, whether they were going to
Okay.
vote for the bond.
And along those lines, then, is there a possibility, well, I understand that that building is part of the historic register and it can't be torn down. It has to stay. But is there a possibility that the heirs of this estate would say to the town, oh, for heaven's sakes, you've had the building for 100 years, why don't you sell it to a nice dentist, and they'll have their practice there in that beautiful building that stays the same, and it's still the architectural historic gem that it is, but keep the money, because you've been so wonderful. I mean, is that a possibility? Could they do that?
Theoretically. But
You want to continue before I go to Selectman Jasper?
yeah, I mean, theoretically, that is a possibility if we had an heir that we could find. And understand, it's not the building that's under restraint, it's the land. So, even if you could conceivably tear the building down, God forbid, and put a fire station there. And you would be well within the conditions of the deed, because it would be a town building. So it's not the library that's restricted, it's the use of the town. So you can't sell it to somebody else.
It's the use of the land. Okay, see, I
Yeah.
thought it was but just the same, the building has to stay because it's a historic building. So aren't there stipulations that can't be torn down anyway?